Hey, we are so excited to present you with another Mind Mastery workshop where we discuss how you can master your mindset and empower yourself as you pursue your goals. Be sure to check out the Mind Mastery playlist, hit the subscribe button, and then the notification bell so that you'll never miss another video.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Let's give everybody a couple minutes. We're right on the button, 11. Well, depends on which clock you look at my house, Dave. But we're right on the button here. So we are just going to give some friends a minute to get in. Dave, you were flying solo last time.
Yeah, we had a good time, but we missed you, Blair. Big time. Yeah, we were talking. It was the big one, right? It's achievement, what everybody's waiting for.
Yeah, I guess so, right? The thing that everybody thinks about when they think of breakthrough was the one
Yeah.
I wasn't there for, but well, for those who are present this morning, Dave's having a little bit of a breakthrough today, actually.
Hitting
Today
new numbers
is,
today, Blair. Hitting new
what's
numbers
that?
today. I'm hitting new numbers.
You're hitting how many numbers you hitting today, Dave?
41. 41.
41,
Yeah.
41. But another year.
Yeah.
So happy birthday to you, man. Love
Thank
you.
you.
You're an amazing person. You're an amazing man. You're an amazing coach. You guys don't know this. I know this. He's an amazing husband. He's an amazing dad. He's an amazing businessman. He loves the Lord with all his heart. He runs a school. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. So you guys we're all very blessed to have you on here, Dave. We're very
You
blessed to know you.
guys, you
And
guys are the blessing. It's all those people that are around me, that I serve, like my wife, my children, the church, the school, the students at TRADEway. That's what life's all about, right? It's like I've got some stuff I'll share a little bit once we get started here,
all
but
right.
um,
Well, you guys are
it's
lighting up the chat there, and
yeah.
there's plenty of happy birthdays in there. So please go ahead as we go along, light it up. If Dave's made an impact on you in any way, shape, or form, please share it in the chat. It'd be a blessing. Dave, what's your love language? Do you
I'm a
know?
mix of all of them, honestly.
Everybody's a mix of all of them, but usually there's something that sticks out,
The thing that sticks out with me, probably just quality time.
Yeah.
Although it's right up there with I don't know, words of affirmation, probably. I like
Well,
to know that I'm making a difference. So
everybody in here, you get to spend some quality time with Dave today, and you get to send in some words of affirmation. So each one should use the gifts given them to serve others, faithfully administering God's grace in its various forms. So if you can, then you can. So go ahead, send it in. Appreciate you guys. All right, well, let's dive in. Dave and I always have a lot we want to get to, and I know Dave has some stuff specifically today, just unique for today. So let's make sure to get to that. Of course, you guys are lighting up the chat. If you got any questions as we go, put it in the Q&A, everything else in the chat. Perfect. Today, continued personal growth. Now, here's what's interesting. We've been going through, for those of you who've been following along, we've been going through the stages of a breakthrough. It's stages. While there's some crossover, it's like the fall and spring season, I find, right? You have your polar opposites, winter, summer, and then you have transition. It's kind of like last week it was 95 degrees in Dallas, and then the next day it was 40. Well, because we're getting into the spring, which is like transition. So there's some crossover that happens in these key, or not these keys, these stages. But what I find is a lot of people get to achievement. Okay, we're now not only implementing, but the tipping point of achievement is now intrinsically reinforcing the behavior. You can't imagine doing it the way you were doing it because you never want to go back to getting what you were getting. But while you were doing something new and not getting something new yet, you were spending something new, investing something new, planting something new. You just weren't getting a return of something new, harvesting something new. Our friend Myron says you can't plant on Thursday night and reap on Friday morning. You reap what you sow, but not when you sow. So we got to get through the tipping point. But achievement happens, and you begin to have a harvest, and you go, this is the only way I'm going to live now. It's the only way I'm going to do this. And we tend to go, okay, there you go. I got the result. I made the change. It's not just transforming my outside world, it's transformed my inside world. And that's a breakthrough. Thank you. Thank you, Lord. Stages of a breakthrough. We're complete. But actually, that's not it. Not in the kingdom. Okay. There are two more stages that have to come and are as important as all the others, because your personal breakthrough, your private breakthrough, has the potential to be a corporate breakthrough, a corporate blessing. And we want to maintain that, because how many of you have achieved something, but that over time wasn't maintained? So today, continued personal growth. We are going to teach you how to harness the power of taking a breakthrough in one area and making it like a domino that knocks down other areas in your life. I watch sometimes people go, you know what, that one thing, I've had it, right? I've had it with that thing. It goes back to one of our first stages, right? Pain recognition, the willingness to make surrender in space, seeking empowerment, point of meaningful action, implementation, and then achievement. That's what we've gone through. But then there's these other areas, and they're like, and it's like, well, wait a second. You can use the power of what you just did and begin to annihilate, is the word I'm going to use, other barriers and other things in your life. So today we're going to spend, as I said, time on continued personal growth. That's the name of today's stage, right? It's continued personal growth. I'm going to read our definition and I'm going to hand it over to Dave. I understand more than ever from the inside out. See, when you're listening to Blair and Dave, it's more outside in. But when you are in that process, it becomes inside out. And that's what we all want. I understand more than ever that making powerful choices for change, God give us courage for that, creates a positive and lasting impact on my life. These choices for change are becoming lasting lifestyles. Keywords, circle, underline, bold, okay? This also serves to shed light. Oh, is light good? It is. On other pains that I couldn't even previously see or handle. Okay, pains could be discomforts, dissatisfaction, boredom, living below my calling, living below who I am, unaddressed things, whatever. Other pains I could not previously see, only furthering my desire and confidence for continued breakthrough. So I get the breakthrough. I'm feeling momentum as a result of that elevation. I've gone up a level, okay? And I feel empowered. I've been partnering with God. We knocked down a wall, right? And now you go, hey, I couldn't see that other wall before, or I didn't want to see that other wall before. Or that other thing I didn't think I could do. Hey, I think I can do. So now you're in momentum and you're seeing something else and you're going, okay. Now I can tackle that. I can tackle it because I couldn't see it, wouldn't see it, and I can tackle it because I didn't think I could, but now I think I can. I got to go through the same process, but I get to do it with fresh momentum. So we're going to say continued personal growth. Dave, we did all this and we're going to keep going.
So we shared Psalm 23 not too long ago. I can't remember which one of these mind masteries it was. If you haven't watched all the mind masteries, go and watch all the mind masteries, because there's a process, right? And you guys are dropping in. If you're dropping in for the first time today, you're dropping in like kind of towards the end of the process. Not at the end yet, but it's weighted towards the end a little bit. And so you want to go and watch all the mind masteries. In one of those mind masteries, I share Psalm 23, which we tend to think of as being a a verse about death, right? Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Turns out it has nothing to do with death, has everything to do with life, and has everything to do with breakthrough and going from a place of contentment to a place of abundance. And thanks for sharing that, Misty. The playlist, guys, for all the mind masteries right there in the chat if you want to go and watch them back. Going from a place of contentment to a place of abundance often requires going through a valley. And when you get to a place of breakthrough, you go, all right, I did it. Like Blair said, that must mean I'm done. But if you read through Psalm 23, which is a perfect picture of this process, the psalmist gets to the place of abundance. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. And it doesn't stop there. That's not the end of the chapter. The next thing is, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So if mercy and goodness are following you, what does that mean? You're still going somewhere, right? And so you get to the place of abundance and you're not done. Like that, going from a place of maybe contentment or even from poverty to contentment, and then from contentment to abundance, that's the first step. Like experiencing breakthrough for the first time is the first step, right? Like there's all these different steps to get to the breakthrough, but they're all really just substeps to the first step, which is breakthrough. Once you have breakthrough, you have a responsibility. I'm reminded of Peter Parker in Spider-Man, right? With great power comes great responsibility. So when you experience breakthrough and you have achieved a breakthrough of some sort, you have just gained a superpower. And there will be great responsibility with that superpower. The first responsibility of that superpower is to steward and cultivate that superpower, which means now that you've done it, you need to do it again. Right? Like, so you grow a tree. I'm about to be growing some trees. I got some trees coming in. I want fruit trees. I want to have a plot of land that produces food and feeds my family. And so we've got peach trees and we've got plum trees. I chose those two because I happen to know that the environment that we're in, we talked about environment in this process, the environment we're in is conducive to growing peaches and plums. So I'm going to start there. Then I'll see what I can do to alter the environment some to see if I can get it to grow other things. But for now, I'm going to put the fruit in the environment in which it grows the best. Once I grow that fruit, I'm going to feel pretty accomplished, Blair, because I've never tried to grow fruit before. All right, this is going to be new for me. Once I grow that fruit, though, I'm not going to stop there. I want to grow more fruit because I don't want to say, look, I did it. I grew a peach. Yay for me. Huber Farms brand coming soon. You better believe it. And Dell, we actually already have a name for it, believe it or not, because we think that way. So I hadn't created the logo yet. I've started though. But anyway, so I've got this idea that I want for breakthrough in growing fruit. But once I have the fruit, I want to grow more of it. And so it's not like I'm just going to go and say, all right, I harvested some peaches and pears. I'm done. I did it. Let's feed my family one time and it's over. I'm going to have to continually break through and see if I can grow the next year. And everything's going to change from year to year. Things are going to change. Sure, we're still going to have seasons, but there's going to be new obstacles. We're going to have pestilences. We're going to have grasshoppers. I happen to know that grasshoppers come through every couple of years through here and they are abundant. And they just left last year. So I think I have maybe a year or two before they get really bad. But when they do, I'm going to have to be ready to break through that. So like your breakthrough, that first breakthrough you experience is supposed to be your initiation into breaking through things. Remember, we talked about early on in this process, God gave man some commands. Be fruitful, which means to produce. Multiply, which means to increase your production. Replenish the earth. Subdue it. Have dominion over it. Well, subdue it means you're going to have obstacles come in your way, which means you're going to have to be ready to break through even after you've produced something. So maybe you've produced a breakthrough in your life. Maybe you've produced getting healthier, or maybe you've produced making some money in the stock market, or maybe you've produced correcting a sin habit, or fixing a relationship with your family or with friends or something. Maybe you figured out how to do something. Go and do it again, but do it in another area of your life. Like Blair said, it's the domino. It's the great big domino. Once you know how to have breakthrough in one area, you use all the same principles in another area, right? And so in my life, the biggest breakthrough that I have had in my life, LOVE, love, the biggest breakthrough. I had to go through some heartbreak to understand what love really is. But once I had that breakthrough and I came to really understand what love is between like a man and a woman, I already understood to some degree the love that God has for me, right? I understand it much better now because I'm starting to understand his analogies between a man and a woman. That's one of the analogies, right? I had to go through some heartbreak to understand what love on my part really looks like. And when I understood what that looks like between a guy and a girl, then I was like, okay, well, how does that same dynamic play out? Because I'm supposed to love my neighbor as myself. How's that same dynamic play out when I'm supposed to love my enemies? Right? Like there is an activation of that principle that I learned about love and what it is. And I'll talk a whole lot more about it when we get to next month's mind mastery, because it has a lot to do with the next part. When I understood what love looks like, then I understood how I could activate it in different areas of my life. But every time I would try to activate it in a different area of my life, guess what? More roadblocks, more objections, more discontentment, more trouble, more problems I had to solve in order to actually show the love in the different areas of my relationships, because every area is a little bit different. And so what happens is you are met with an opportunity to try and do the whole process again and get more breakthrough. But what's cool is that surely goodness and mercy shall follow you all the days of your life. Once you have that area of breakthrough, you've got something special, something new, a little goodness and a little mercy on your side because you've been through it before. And you have an opportunity to go through it with a little bit different mindset. Like Blair said, you're going to live totally differently this way. You're going to be completely different because you're going to start looking at all your other problems in a different light. You're going to say, well, last time I applied XYZ, I had breakthrough in this area. Maybe I can apply XYZ in that area and it will work. And when it starts to work and then doesn't, you're going to go, what? Why not? Because there's more roadblocks. And so you got to go, okay, let's revisit XYZ and see where in XYZ I can actually continue to grow, because you're not done growing yet. When you have breakthrough, it's not over. You have more breakthrough to go to.
Yeah, it makes me think a lot of things here, Dave, in terms of this stage. Number one, I think about how Israel comes to take the promised land, right? These things are written down as an example to us. And it is a very easy picture to understand of what it's like to possess inheritance, to live a life worthy of the calling you've received, to ultimately the generation that you are placed in, to use that, to use your life rather, to take the ground that you were meant to take. Not because you have to, but you get to, for your benefit and those around you. It's piece by piece. Joshua goes in, and then past Joshua even, right? The further generations, piece by piece, up to David even, piece by piece, they take the land. They take the land. And so we're possessing something that is generational when you get breakthroughs in your life. Because what's the strength of the kingdom in a lot of ways? Now, ultimately, the strength of the kingdom is the king, but the families are built of the people, and you're one of those people, right? The church, living stones. It says built up with living stones. You and I are those stones. So what I'm saying is that when we advance, it's not just aggressive ambition. It's the Spirit of the Lord that leads us into the fullness, which we never fully reach, but a greater fullness of whatever he has. And you're using power. Why do you think the Lord commands the people to have memorial stones in remembrance, right? The testimonies, because you don't want to disconnect from the power of remembering the breakthrough that you got, that God did, that God gave you, because there's more ground to take. There's more places where there's an occupation that needs to be eliminated. And there's a scripture in the Old Testament. It says that the Israelites put the Canaanites to forced labor, but they didn't utterly drive them out. They managed them, but they weren't commanded to manage them. They were commanded to drive them out. I read a devotional this morning, Dave, about how David kills Goliath, kills him with the stone, but then cuts off his head. Why? And I'm not going to go too far down that rabbit trail, and there's probably a few interpretations, but Goliath is not getting up. Let me just sum it up like that, okay? It's done, and now it's really done, okay? It's done. He is gone. He is dead. That battle is never coming back, okay? And by the way, when David did that, it says that the armies of Israel rose up and pursued the enemy, and they'd been sitting on the sidelines. Now, it gets a little bit into what we're going to talk about next time, but there's more ground. There's more ground, and your calling, your family, your church, your community, your country, if I might say that, your trading, your whatever, you can attach, because you overflow to other places and you overflow to other people. It's just a matter of what kind of flow is really happening. And so what you and I do in this place, if we stop, if we keep going, if we utilize that momentum, it impacts a lot of other things. And so understanding that we're going to continue to move forward is actually really it's really important. And you want to harness momentum and strength. Momentum on, let's talk physics. Momentum, it's harder. It takes more energy to get it going. It takes more energy to get it going again. Caitlin and I have even been, we exercise together. And so she started this plan, and she's in there, and, you can do the motion of an exercise. And there's even something, at some point you have to, let's say it's a bench press, right? You have to change direction. It takes energy to change direction. But when you come down, I'll go this way, Dave. When you come down and go right back up, well, you're abruptly changing direction, and there's a challenge to that. But if you come down and you stop, give it 2 seconds, then go up. I promise you, not even 2 seconds, maybe a second. You just stop and then go. You are lifting something off the floor. You don't tap it. You don't bounce it. You stop and then you pull it. It's way harder. It's just way harder, So when we get momentum, it's important to protect it. And I know you've talked about this in the past. We used to talk about this more at TRADEway, just around an event we had around momentum. Momentum is important. And I just want to say this, Dave, because I just felt this as you were sharing. I think this is true for me, and I know it's probably true for some people out there. There's some ground that you need to take, and you've been taking ground over here, and that's been good. That's good for you. But it's time to go to the other side. It's time to go to some new places. They're there, okay? But your heart is not fully engaged in those things. And I think for some of us, if we stopped and were really honest with ourselves, we could go, that has become comfortable. It still requires some energy, but that's become comfortable. That's become easier. It was harder. It was fresh. And it is important, but there's these things over here, and maybe I'm managing them a bit or a lot. The enemy is there and I'm managing those, or I just know this is the way that I'm supposed to go now. This is a focus I'm supposed to have now. It's presenting itself, and some of you guys, it's presenting itself in frustration. This isn't working the way it used to. This isn't satisfying the way it used to. There's something happening. You know, sometimes, guys, if we're so quick to just blame everything on the devil, things can get complex. They can get complicated. They can get difficult. And we go to work immediately trying to figure it all out. And really, I think sometimes, Dave, things get complicated because the Lord's hand doesn't come off our life. It moves. It moves. And what I mean by that is he's trying to get us to come up higher again. Come up to me again. Out of the routine that you established in the last season. Good routine, good for you, but no, now something different. Because I'm calling you up higher. You can't work this out on your own. All these stages, guys, they're not meant to be apart from the Spirit, okay? They're all meant to be done in partnership with the Spirit. He's the one who leads it. Dave and I want to submit this process to him, not replace him with some kind of creative process, right? But it gives us wisdom and a framework for partnering with him. And I think for some of us, Dave, there is a what's the word? It's a challenge, yes, but it is a invitation, a call to say the things you've been pursuing, wherever whatever stage you're at, keep going. But when we come to this stage, there are areas that if we look to the side a bit, we've been fixated here, but there's some things that they're calling to your heart. And if you go back to pain recognition and willingness to surrender and make space, we said this in the definition at the beginning, there's some things I couldn't see, but now I'm starting to see them. This new breakthrough is shedding light on some other things. That's what happens when we grow. That's what happens when we break through. That's what happens when we get more free, we get more healed, we get more blessed, we have the ability to see some other things. And we have to choose once again to go through the process with those things. And what's interesting is that we talked, Dave, about the pain recognition and the willingness to surrender and make space. Those are the two first stages.
Yeah.
Okay? Those stages are things that we have to remember when we described them in our initial episodes. They're ones that you maybe have been living with for a while, and you're finally going, oh, not that it has to be all negative. It might not be, oh, okay, I surrender. It might be like, oh, I know that's mine. Like that's God has called me, and I'm gonna grab a hold of it. Whichever predominant mindset or motion, not that I don't want you to be defeated heavy. I'm just saying whichever kind of approach that is, you had to surrender and you had to go, okay, I trust, here we go. So this one is about using that momentum. This one is about, as Dave said, you're still going somewhere, but this one is about in a new way, doing the old thing. In a new way, you're coming back as a man or a woman, as a human being who has to go, I choose to climb that mountain again. I choose to ascend. I've been saying this to Caitlin the last, maybe, I don't know, 2-3 weeks. Who will ascend the hill of the Lord and just telling the Lord, Lord, I want to ascend. Some of us in our Christian life, it's time to ascend again. It's time to go up the mountain. It's time to go up the steps. I'm living sometimes, Dave. I said this to some of our students in Orlando this past weekend. I'm living on history. I'm not living on presence. Right? Now, the presence of God is with me. Okay. Obviously, we know that he's in me, but he wants to create history with me today. And I'm living in some places, Dave, out of the history that I've already created. And you might say, well, Blair, that doesn't totally make sense, because if you're living with God every day, you're always creating history. And that's true. That's true. He's here, I'm here. There's always a measure of that. But really ascending, if I can keep using that biblical language, is part of what we're hitting on here today. And it may not necessarily for you have a fixation and a focus only on your personal connection with Jesus. It could be lots of different areas of life. I'm not containing it to one thing, but I'm just saying for me, there are some areas that as I draw near to the Spirit of the Lord, it's like, no, Blair, it's not so much that anymore. It's this. And continuing to restart that process and choose in again and say, I see some things that can't stay, and I'm going to follow you once again into this process, but I'm going to do so with fresh power, fresh testimony, and a breakthrough in one area serves one in another,
Well,
so
you know,
it all serves each other.
well, and you also have like why? Why do I need to keep ascending? Why do I want to keep going? What if I got to the point I wanted to get to, right? Like you got people who say, well, I don't want to be rich. I just want to be comfortable, for instance, right? I get to the point where I'm comfortable. But why do I want to be wealthy with finances? Or what if all I need is my wife? I don't need other relationships. I'm okay with that, right? And what that is, we say, okay, well, is comfort okay? Well, comfort's great. Comfort's good. It comes from the Lord, right? The blessing of the Lord maketh rich, and he addeth no sorrow with it. Like it's good. However, then there's sacrifice, right? Like that, take what God has given you, give it back, right? So like you get to some good place, something where you say, all right, my life is comfortable. I'm happy. I've got a good life. Yeah, there are some things that aren't great, but you know what? I'm way better off than most other people, and I can manage those things, like Blair said. So what should motivate me to ascend? What should motivate me to keep going? And I think it's sacrifice. You look at the temple, you look at the tabernacle, right? And there were three parts to the tabernacle. You had the outer court, you had the holy place, and then you had the Holy of Holies. And each of these show you a closer walk with Jesus, right? So like in the court, here's what would happen. There would be a sacrifice made. And that sacrifice was not of something terrible. It was always of something good, right? Like it was a great thing. Now you had two kinds of sacrifices. You had the sacrifice of gift offerings, right? Where there would be some of the animal or whatever the sacrifice was, you'd retain some of it, eat some of it. But then you had burnt sacrifices, right? So you had the gift offerings, and you had burnt sacrifices. And the difference is stunning, because a burnt sacrifice, the whole thing was consumed, all of it. And so there was nothing left. It was all just consumed with fire and rose up as an aroma to the Lord. It was a total loss to the giver. Now, a couple of things had to happen. One, you had to have the priest come and do the sacrifice for you. We have Jesus who sacrificed for us. So it starts with his work. And from his work, we can go and do our work. But that outer court, it pictures saying, all right, God, I'm giving up this thing. It can start as something bad that you've you've used to medicate, like Blair said early on in this process. Like maybe it was something you just used to medicate a feeling or something that's just been plaguing you your whole life. It could be a sin habit, whatever it is. It could be something good that you're holding on to that you know you need to let go of to get something great, to go from contentment to abundance. So
Totally.
you
For
have
some
to,
of you, that's the breakthrough.
that's the
Literally
breakthrough, right?
letting go of the lesser thing that you got, and it even maybe came from the Lord, for
Mm-hmm.
what's next, for what's different, for what's greater. And you're choosing the thing that you got from God more than the Lord himself now. And
Mm.
the breakthrough will be to let that go. Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
No, it's okay. So you get out from the court, you go into the holy place. And in the holy place, you have three pieces of furniture. Basically, you've got the showbread, the altar of the showbread, you've got uh, the lampstand, and then you've got the altar of incense in the holy place. And each one of these show a picture of transformation, right? So the altar of the showbread, picture of Jesus, he is the bread, right? The bread of life. And the um, what's the word I'm looking for? The priests. The priests, they eat the showbread. That's an internalization. It's a picture of the internalization of Christ. We have Jesus living in us, right? It is no longer I, but Christ who lives within me. And so we get that showbread. The next piece, that showbread should have some sort of transformation in our lives. When you've got Jesus, he requires transformation. So why do I want to ascend? Because that will be more transformation. So I've got to ascend to get more transformation. I've got to give up what I have, make the sacrifice in the court, walk from a place of holding on to the Spirit of God, walk in faith, internalizing my faith, right? And then you have the lampstand, and the lampstand is actually just a picture of the triune God. It's made of gold. It's a perfect substance to represent God's divine nature. It was beaten into the form of a candlestick, right? Basically a lamp, shows the Son of God. It's a picture of the Son. And then you've got the flames atop, showing the seven spirits of God as described in Revelation. So you've got the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit all pictured there. And what that is it's a picture of transformation, because it's no longer I who lives, but Christ who lives within me. I am transformed to look more like the image of God. And then I have the altar of prayer, in which I go to the Lord and say, here are my desires. Align them with your will. Help me achieve or ascend or break through.
Right.
And now I am being invited from that place into the Holy of Holies, where it's no longer just God with us, but it's me stepping into the presence of the Lord. And it's like Blair said, the hand of God, it's moving, right? So he moves and he says, now come with me, right? He comes to you in your place of hurting. And he says, I understand. You seek the Lord. He is not here. Go that way. You'll find him on the road, right? He comes and meets you there, but then he moves, right? And when he moves, you're supposed to follow. And he doesn't stop. It's a continual thing. I think we'll be moving with Jesus even when we're in heaven. I think he's going to continually refine us and make us better. I think he goes off into infinity. And so just the picture of the tabernacle, right? This transformational process that goes from, you had to have someone come and sacrifice for you, to being invited into the presence of God. Know ye not that your body is the temple? Like, you are the temple of God. Like, that is a picture of what's supposed to happen inside of you. That transformation is supposed to happen inside of you. And it's not just a one and done deal. Yes, we're saved, once saved, always saved. We have God's Son, his blood is covering us, and we are no longer positionally unrighteous. We are positionally righteous in the eyes of the Father. He sees us. He says, all I see is my Son. You are great. But then we have experiential righteousness. And part of that experiential righteousness is a walk, a daily walk with Jesus. Where are you going, God? How can I follow? I want to be where you're going. And when we get there, we enjoy it a little bit, right? He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. But then he's going to lead you down the paths of righteousness again for his namesake. And so this whole idea of the Lord is inviting you into something. The invitation isn't the breakthrough. The invitation is the following, right? The invitation is like, we got breakthrough because you followed. We got breakthrough because you held my hand. We got breakthrough because you did all the things that showed you had the faith to continue over the obstacles, to subdue the earth, to have dominion over it. But the invitation is, stick with me. I'm still moving somewhere.
Yeah,
Right?
that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't even remember how you just said that, Dave, but I was thinking you guys should write that down. It's not the breakthrough, it's the following.
Mm-hmm.
The following is what has the breakthrough. Jesus, how can we I don't want to misquote this now because it's just coming to my mind. I'm just going to say it this way. Okay. Jesus says, I am the way. They're like, we don't know the way to where you're going. He's like, I am the way. I think a lot of times we think like, oh, Jesus is the way to get saved. And we tack
Yeah.
that on the end. Like, I let Jesus into my heart, or I asked Jesus into my heart, however, whatever language you guys would use. Okay, true, but that's actually not what he said there. He said, I am the way.
Mm-hmm.
I am the way. Well, what does that mean? Everything for life and godliness, every spiritual blessing in Christ, right? It's all in him. I'm not trying to be overly, I guess, general or theological, but literally the thing that you're seeking, that the Lord has invited you to, by very definition, means he's invited you to himself. And it's a very common mistake, I think. And I like how you said that, Dave, to begin to seek the thing. And I don't even just mean idolatry, because we could get over to that, and make something in place of God. But I'm not even taking this that far. I'm just saying it's just easy to think that the thing that God has called us to and to be faithful to him is to seek the thing that he called us to. And there's some truth to that. You got to cross the river.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You got to go in. They didn't go in. He called that the rebellion, the refusal to obtain the fullness of what he'd called them to was called the rebellion. And so we have to actually go, but think of Moses. Hey, listen, if you're not going, I'm not going. I don't even want to go. If you're not going with us, I don't even want to go. Don't send an angel. Don't give me spiritual power to go and get it done. I don't even want to bother. Even if you give me heavenly, not demonic, right? Not worldly, but heavenly assistance and power to get there. But if you're not going, so I think you're right, Dave. He's the way. And perhaps some of you guys are frustrated because you really are seeking the thing. And we have to, listen, guys, we have to speak into, some of you guys have very particular situations. So prayerfully take this, eat the meat, spit out the bones for your situation. But some of us, it's become more about the process than the Lord. It's become more about the destination than the way. And you're not plugged into the power source. That's the problem. I remember John Piper saying years ago, if you stand in front of a painting and you become so enraptured in the spectacular nature of this painting that it begins to arrest your mind and your emotions, and you're caught up with it. You're not caught up with being caught up. You're just caught up. You're just like, wow, that's wow. I think the first time I was in New York and I saw Washington crossing the Delaware. I was like, wow, I don't know. On some level, maybe I never thought I would see that. And I'm not a big painting guy, Dave. I'm just saying, like, in the moment, I'm like, oh, wow, this is a piece of history. This is amazing. And then you become aware of the awareness. You become aware of how the art made you feel, and you want the feeling from the way that art can make you feel.
Oh, so true. Yeah.
That's a different thing than being in that moment with the art.
Yep.
And I think we translate this to our conversation by saying sometimes we're trying to get the thing between us and God because we want the feeling of the power, the breakthrough, whatever it is. And that's just not where the power is.
Yeah.
That's not adoration. That's not connection. That's not communion. That's not worship. That's not the way. That's not you're not, there's no transfer happening because I'm thinking about the transfer. The
Mm-hmm.
power is not in the transfer. The power is in the person. And when you touch the hem of the garment, power comes out from the person. And she presses past the crowd. She's a woman. She presses past them. She's unclean. She presses past them. There's so much demand. Peter says, what do you mean somebody touched you? Everybody's touching you. They're all around you. Being around him is not the same as touching him. And he goes, hold on, stop the press. Somebody just connected with me. Right? And she'd spent all the money she had on people who were supposed to be able to get it done. But only he could get it done. And no matter how bad she wanted it, 12 years had gone by. There just wasn't power present to do it. Right? But look what she did. And so it's full circle what you just said, Dave. It's not in the pursuit. I'm already changing what you said. I like how you said it. It's not in the pursuit. Excuse me,
Not
it's
in the
not in the
breakthrough.
breakthrough, it's in the following.
It's in the following. Yeah.
Following because of who you're following. If you draw near to me, I will draw near to you. And the rich young ruler is not an example primarily, I think, in a lot of ways, how it's been taught about money. It is definitely about money because so often the answer to what I'm going to say is money, because it's sought for security more than anything else, probably, for most people, certainly here in America. But point being, I think the main point of that is that God always knows how to come to you and put his finger right on the thing that's not in pursuit of him. It's not in pursuit of him. It's not in dependence on him. It's independent of him. And he goes, yeah, there's never going to be any power that flows in that area. It's always going to be a place where the enemy gets to hang out. So here's what I'm going to propose to you. You're going to have to cut that thing off. You know what I mean? That's the next, you're going to have to ascend.
Yep.
You have to keep going. Well, I did this. I got this breakthrough. I did this. I did that. This I've done since I was a youth. Okay. Yeah. Good. All right. Awesome. Here's the deal. You're at the next stage and I want you to ascend like this. You're going to have to reconcile with me, the Lord, of course, to be able to, not me. You understand what I mean? We got some folks out there. Maybe you don't know us. You know what I mean? That's a sound.
Speaking from Jesus's perspective.
Everybody out there, you guys still got Dave? Let me know. Oh, you're back. You're back now, Dave. That's a place in your life where you're going to need to connect to me, or you're not going to be able to scale this hill. Right? And don't be surprised that the invitation of the Lord is to a thing that if you attempt to do it without being in pursuit of him first and foremost, that the pursuit, the apprehension It's just frustrating. Just doesn't work because it was never about that thing. It was about him. And we risk sounding a little, and I say this with respect because, Dave and I love to preach. I'm saying risk sounding a little preachy. And what I mean by that is just not practical enough to benefit you. You have to apply this to your specific situation. But I think we're hitting something pretty important here today. And looking at the stage that we're at of continued personal growth, the Lord, he has more, but he's calling you to himself. And as he does that, he'll point out that area in your heart. And you may have to be like the woman with the issue of blood. And you just go, I'm going to have to press past the things that are unacceptable to me and maybe to people around me. Because you're shouting, Son of David, don't pass me by. You're going to have to touch him. It's about him. Or he's just putting his finger on something that you're going to have to get wrapped up in the painting again, not in the feeling that comes from getting wrapped up in the painting or the outcome that comes from it. Because there's no power in that piece. It's in the painting itself, and
Don't end up like the Pharisee, right? The Pharisees, they had the law given to them by God, and that's amazing, right? But Jesus told them, you search the scripture, for in them you think you have eternal life, but they are they which speak of me.
Right.
So they had the law, and it was like, wow, this is from God. And then all of their feelings were connected to that law.
True.
And that's all they cared about was like, let's get that thing. And the more I do this, the better I'll feel. And really, they missed the point.
So much so, if you guys haven't seen the first few episodes of The Chosen, the new season, now it's only been in the theater, so I'm not going to give anything away. But if you've even seen the trailer, and granted, we're just talking about the scriptures here because we know this happens in the scriptures, but certainly in the new season, there is more than a few showdowns.
Yeah.
Between Jesus and the Pharisees, as we know happened. But it's amazing to see their depiction, and I'm not giving anything plot-wise away. I mean, let's be honest, you guys know the story. You've read the script, okay? But they do a fantastic job. And it's interesting to see how shocked the Pharisees really are. Shocked. How can you speak to us like this? And I don't know. I think to tie it back in here and stay in my lane, moving forward into the new things, I think what we're discovering and we're talking about here today is that we use that momentum. There's always more. We're being directed for the next thing. It may be the thing we didn't see. It may be the thing we don't want to see. But whatever it is, it's an invitation to ascend to the Lord. And it's in the pursuit of him, not just general spiritual disciplines and church attendance, and all those things are good, but it's him himself. The Holy Spirit is leading you. And it may require some seeking. It may not. You may know already, but there's another step. There's another step. And it's in the seeking of him that the empowerment for whatever it is will come. And then we walk and work the stages. I mean, it's a partnership. It's pedals on a bike. Okay? You have to do your part, but he calls us to himself, and whether it's pressing past the shame, or it's trying again, or it's refocusing, or it's that place in your heart that has been held back, or it's letting go of the old thing that God gave you because he's doing a new thing, like Dave said, or maybe we've even built an identity on some level over a period of time with what God has given us. And he never meant some of that to happen, or it's time to make an exchange. But the point is, whatever one of these things hits your situation the most, We're continuing to move forward, and it's never about the thing. It's about him and who he's shaping us into, being transformed from one degree of glory to the next. And this is from the Lord, who is the Spirit. And so we continue on. If I had to say, I like Dave's phrase more for a good sum total of today, but I would just say today the stage is about continuing on. It's continuing
Mhm.
on. I would say, Dave, I can think of some times, and life happens, and there's never perfect momentum, but I have gained momentum in areas and I have maintained it. There's
Mhm.
also other areas where I have gained momentum and I've let it go.
Yep.
Sometimes it was a battle. Sometimes it was a huge change. Sometimes, and I look back and I go, well, you know what? I actually think I grabbed onto the Lord and I did the best I could. Some seasons you're not taking ground. You're just trying not to lose ground, right? That's
Mhm.
just how life is sometimes. Okay. However, there are other times where I think I just let the momentum go. I just
Yep.
did. I just didn't maintain that same momentum.
Done that before.
Yeah, I think we all have, and so think about the momentum you have today and protect it.
That's a good word right there.
Unless the Lord is asking you, no, I'm your momentum. Because that can trip some people up, can
There
it?
you go. I
In
mean,
light of what we're talking about, right? Like I there's certain things in my life, Dave, that have been gifts from God, and I look at them and I go, wow, that has really been a blessing in certain ways. But over time, I begin to set my heart on those things being the source
mhm.
than him who gave them to me in the first place.
Mm.
And that's tricky.
Even
That's
the momentum. I love that you said that because we can get so caught up in this process of breakthrough, momentum, breakthrough again, momentum, breakthrough again, that can become the thing. That might have to be the thing. If you're currently in that stage, good for you. That's awesome. Like, wow, you've blown through some massive roadblocks and reached some big goals, but at some point you got to sacrifice momentum, sacrifice that and
that's
give
interesting.
that to the Lord.
That is so true.
Hmm.
That's so true.
That's when he's calling you to a time of rest, almost always.
Yeah. I was gonna say, culturally speaking, what always pressing forward looks like
Hmm.
is of a certain flavor, isn't it?
Yep.
The ladder of culture, whether it is it looks like family, or it looks like church, or it looks like your career. Usually it's career, a lot of times it is, but it could be anything. And there's a definition of what it's supposed to look like, what you're supposed to do. And I think you're right, Dave. It could be the thing. The breakthrough is that the kind of breakthrough you keep pursuing uh, is not the breakthrough he's pursuing right now.
Hmm.
I would say, yeah, I think that's very true. So how do we know? How do we know? You have to seek him.
That's
Yeah,
what that altar of prayer is for, man. The altar of incense is to remind you to pray. You've got to be entreating the Lord, and
yeah,
telling him, like, this is what I'm dealing with. Here's how I feel. Don't know why I feel this way. Can you help me out? Like, what's going on?
yeah,
Search his word, get into the word, get into the prayer time, and just let him talk to you.
yeah. That is exactly true. That is exactly true. And we could say that every one of these, again, this isn't just a personal development framework, excuse me, where we just have to crash through it. It's meant to be very practical, but it's always going to come back to where's the power coming from? Because Dave and I are believers that you're taking ground in accordance with the design of who you have been created to be, which only the Lord fully knows, and what you are created to do in the time that you are given, which is good works prepared for you in advance in order that you may walk in them. But how do we?
Prepared a table before me, right?
Yeah, you have
Yeah.
the provision you need in the middle of the battle to walk the steps that the Lord has set for you before the foundation of the world. So it's a lot of theological language to say that journey you and I can't do apart from him.
Hmm.
The American journey can be in some ways. Now, in some ways, not. There's common grace and special grace. He causes it to rain. The sun won't rise without him. You have no air in your lungs. All of that is true. But if you really want to walk out the thing that he has for you, it simply can't be done apart from him. So continued personal growth for today is continued pursuit. It's a reassessment. This is the last thing I'll say, Dave. I had a pastor mentor say, that he was praying in early January, and he said he was just asking the Lord for a word over the year. Like, what are you speaking over this year? A scripture, something, And he felt like it was time for a halftime.
Hmm.
Halftime. And the halftime meant, what do we do at halftime? Whether you're up in the game or you're down in the game. Now, whether you're up or down will change what your halftime looks like. But you come together at halftime and you assess, where are we at? What's working? What's not working? Okay. Where are we doing well and winning? Where are we not doing well and we're not? Whatever it is, take the time, stop, slow down, halftime. How are we really doing? Because we still got a whole other half to play. And we don't want to go into the second half without being aware of what is necessary in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
So take this halftime. And I think when we come to continued personal growth, we stop and go, okay, hold on a second. Halftime, Blair. Assess. Where are we at? What are we doing? Because we don't want you guys to just go just to the next thing. And I'm going to, it depends on your personality too. Some of you guys are more prone to that. No. Stop, slow down. What now? Where am I going to apply this momentum? As I'm moving through these stages and seeing fruit and pursuing more fruit, because it's in and through him that we want to direct this journey. So that might be for some people to take a little bit of that assessment at this point. Now, we're talking about breakthrough today. You apply this when you feel like you're in that space, or perhaps in an area of life where you're occupying that space, right? I would recommend everybody, we got one more, Dave, right? We got one more stage here.
It's a big one.
You go and you write them down.
Yep.
Write them down and you write, what has God called me to? Where am I? What are the aspects of my identity that he speaks over me?
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, those are the things that have been most opposed by the enemy, your circumstances, life, the world. Natural man says that you believe that what is true is, let me say that differently. The natural mind believes the truth based on experiences and emotions, but the renewed mind believes what is true and activates it based on what the Lord says.
Mm-hmm.
So you take those things. What has he called me to do? What does he put in my heart to do? Who does he say I am? Where is he? Do I feel like he's leading me next? Those are some core questions. And then you go through the stages on pen and paper or a notepad. You go through what we've talked about and you go, where am I in those areas? I gave you 4 questions just right now. Where am I? What stage am I on in those areas? Oh my goodness, I'm not even in the process in this area. Okay, boom, you have the info that you need because you got to get started. Oh, I'm on this one, right? I'm actually at seeking empowerment in that area. I actually didn't even realize that's where I was at, or I did, and I've jumped ship. So now I'm going to pick that up again, and I'm going to, whatever it is, right? Now we're connecting where we're going, what we're wanting to see with what stage I'm actually at. Some of you guys have been following along with one very particular thing in mind the whole time we've been doing this series. So you're very conscious of that. Okay. So that's good. That's practical, and it's merging. The information and the application are coming together, and that's how you can assess where you're going. Intentional life is intentional. You know, I'm learning that. Intentional life is intentional. Dave and I, we teach a lot of this kind of stuff. Don't think I get off this webinar and I've got every single area of my life perfectly calculated, defined, and set up. But I can tell you, the more that I am doing this, and the areas that I am calculated, set up, the more I realize intentional life is intentional. And intentional life is always better than unintentional life. Always better than unintentional life. And intentional community is essential for intentional life. So we appreciate you guys being here. Dave, I'll let you close this out today. You got anything else you want to share?
No, I think it's a good way to just nail it there. I'll go back to a question that was posed by Nicholas. His question was, do you find these resistance stages where you're called up to meet a new need of the hour to last for a certain period of time, or just for the season appropriate to each person for their circumstances and skill sets? I'll say to that, Nicholas, it's supposed to be hard until it isn't. Like, the difficulty is designed to change you. It's designed to work on you. One of my favorite things Myron Golden says is work's a two-sided coin. There's work you do on work, and then there's work does on you. Right. So when you hit the roadblocks and the levels of resistance, just know those are designed to make you become the person who can do the thing where it's easy. But you got to change first, right? And that's when you overcome. When you overcome and you break through, then the thing becomes easy, like Blair said. Now you know how to get breakthrough in that area, so you move to the next area. And you say, all right, where's the resistance there? How can I overcome that? And those levels of resistance, to answer your question, they are designed for each specific person, because they are designed for you and your walk in your following of Jesus. So that's it, guys. Thanks for being a part of Mind Mastery. We got one more to go of the big, like, stages of a breakthrough series we've been doing, and it's one of my favorite ones. It might be my favorite one, Blair.
Yeah.
So that, I can't wait to do that one. But we'll let you guys go today. We are praying for your breakthrough. We are praying that the Lord really gets a hold of you in every area of your life and says, follow me, and you do. And when you do that, it's going to change some things, not just for you, but for the people around you, which is what we'll talk about next time. So thanks again, Blair, for being on with us. And thank you, everybody. We'll see you at the next Mind Mastery, and then we'll see you in the market. Y'all take care.
All right, we'll see you guys. Happy birthday, Dave.
Thanks again.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Hey, we really hope you enjoyed today's Mind Mastery. Leave us a comment with your favorite takeaway, and then check the playlist for any workshops you may have missed. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and then the notification bell so that you never miss another video. God bless, and we'll see you in the next workshop.